So if everyone can start the meeting, before we get started, if everyone could silence their phones, I'd greatly appreciate that.
No ringing phones when the speakers talk.
Yes. So I appreciate anybody that came to our meetup at the previous Thursday meetup that we did at Mario's. Also, little tidbit, Mario's does have a new owner, so be sure to get in there and support the new owners. They have no plans on changing any recipes. It's like, if you've never been to Mario's, it's like one of those tried and trues, classics of Flint, and it's like there's not enough old school restaurants like that around, so be sure to support the new owners of Mario's on Fenton Road. So our first speaker tonight is Jeffrey Savoy from Pathway Mortgage, and a quick testimonial for Jeff is, I'd never met Jeff until tonight, but Ryan, who's a member here, comes to almost every meeting, wrote an offer on a house that I had listed, and he wrote it, he's like, Ed, 215, close, 14 days. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I called my seller, and I'm like, all right, I got 215 cash, we'll close in 14 days. And then he sends me the purchase agreement, and it was conventional financing. And I was like, man, you told me this was cash. He goes, I never told you it was cash. I just told you we close in 15 days. 14 days later, thanks to our buddy Jeff here, we closed with an investment loan in 14 days. And, I can't even get single family people with W-2 jobs and engineers to close in 14 days. It's more like 30. So somehow this guy's got a system figured out that works. So please help me welcome Jeffrey Savoy.
Thanks for the warm introduction, Ed. I appreciate it. I'm not known for public speaking, so please bear with me. I guarantee, at least I think, the content is going to be very useful, even if the delivery is kind of mediocre. I'll wait till this handout goes out. I'm going to kind of follow along with it. But Ed hit on something that I think is huge in this market, speed. Speed is just huge. So if you can do things faster and close faster, it really makes your offer probably that much more likely to be accepted. My company, I feel like I'm going to shamelessly advertise for my company throughout this presentation. So we are very, very fast compared to other mortgage companies. I built my company that way. We're geared that way. We've been very, very successful the past year because of that. Just like Ed was, saying, oh, it was great. We closed in 14 days. We always try to close as fast as possible. The people that work for me mock me continuously for trying to make things go a lot faster. So I'm going to follow along with this handout. The first thing I put in bold is your finances are unique. The best thing you can do is consult with a competent loan officer to go over your options. I guarantee every single one of you, if I talk to you, is going to have something slightly different than the other one. You might be self-employed. You might be a W-2 income. You might have a ton of money. You might not have a lot of money. So the biggest thing is I'm not going to go into, oh, if you have a lot of money, you should do this, or if you don't have a lot of money, you should do this. The biggest thing I would tell you is make sure you're talking to a loan officer who knows what they're doing, can look at your finances and say, okay, well, you have this going for you, this is a strength, this is a weakness, you want to put this much down. Potentially, these are some options I think you should consider. But you want to talk to somebody who really knows about structuring financing and can make a smart decision based on your situation. Because like I said, what I recommend for one person is probably going to be vastly different from the next person on the exact same property. So the first bullet point I have here, your least expensive option and lowest interest rate is conventional financing. So let me back up a little. This is all about residential 1 to 4 family financing. If you get into commercial, I know a little bit about it, but I would venture to say you'll probably have a commercial guy come and talk to you about that. So this is residential 1 to 4 unit financing. So your least expensive option for residential 1 to 4 unit, it's going to be conventional financing. That's the first lens I look at anybody who comes to me for a mortgage. I'll say, all right, well, let's see if we can get you approved for a conventional loan. Mostly for conventional loans, you're going to have to show income. You get into situations where I'm sure a lot of you have great tax people, a lot of you have a lot of write-offs, so, yeah, yeah. If you already own property, for the majority of you, I'm gonna be asking you, hey, let me see your tax returns, let me sell all your finances. So the one thing I wanted to tell you is sometimes I get people who are kind of asking me, why do you need to see my tax returns, or they don't want to show them. I am on your side. Any loan officer you talk to is on your side, because if we don't close your loan, we're not getting paid. So anything you share with me, I might look at it and say, oh, this is something we want to show the underwriter. I might look at it and go, we really don't want to show this to the underwriter. Maybe there's a way around it. So my advice, no matter who you talk to, me or anybody else, just give them whatever information that they're looking at. They're going to sift through it and make a smart decision on what to show underwriting. If you don't qualify for a conventional mortgage, there are other options available. And I'm going to get to those in a little bit, but it's my bullet point number 5 on here. Generally speaking, for let me back up a little. FHA loans don't allow investment properties, so if you're thinking maybe do an FHA loan, low down payment, they don't allow them. USDA loans don't allow investment properties either, neither do VA loans. Your only options for residential financing are going to be a conventional loan or a non-conventional loan. And I'll talk more about non-conventional loans in a minute. So for a conventional loan, you're looking at a 15% down payment. When you go to purchase a home, and then if you want to pull cash out of your property, you're looking at 75% of the appraised value. So I have some clients that, especially in this market, they own houses free and clear, and they can't get an offer accepted even if they're putting 15 or 25% down. So they've done cash out refinances, taken the cash and made cash offers on stuff. So that might be an option for you if you own some of your properties outright. And then if you did a cash out refinance on any property for whatever reason, you can go to 75% of the appraised value. Let's see, so number 3 on here is delayed financing. This has been used more and more with people that I deal with. So if you have the cash, it's great. You can pay cash for the house, but then you can do a mortgage immediately after you pay cash for it. So then you're making a cash offer. Obviously your offer will be more likely to be accepted. The only thing about delayed financing is you can only go to 75% of the appraised value. So it's different than your standard 15% down mortgage. You're giving up that 10% equity in the house in terms of a down payment. But in terms of getting your offer accepted, delayed financing is great for a lot of people. Bullet point number 4, you have a maximum of 10 finance properties for conventional financing. So that would be you own 9, you're buying one more, that's your 10th property. That's for conventional financing. If you own more than 10 properties, excuse me.
Hey, John.
Yep.
Is that 10 houses or 10 mortgages?
It's 10 mortgages. Yep. 10 finance properties. So you could own 30 houses or 50 houses, but you can only have 10 of them financed. And it doesn't matter what type of financing it is. It can be a land contract, it can be whatever else. If you have financing on it, it counts towards that total. Now there are other loans, non-conventional financing, that allow you to have more than 10 properties financed. Those types of loans are higher interest rates, higher costs, so sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't. So then we get to item number 5, which would be alternatives to conventional financing. This is something a lot of companies don't offer. If you go to your standard bank, credit union, I don't know any of them that offer alternatives to conventional financing. They just don't have these types of loans. So the types of loans I'm talking about would be, it would be me looking at your current finances and saying, hey, you know what, for whatever reason, you just don't qualify for conventional financing. We can look at some alternatives. So maybe you do have a good tax guy and your taxes, you probably made a lot of money, but you're not showing a lot of money on your taxes. That's a huge reason why a lot of my clients don't get approved for conventional financing. So then we look at, they have a loan called a stated income loan, and it is what I just said. You just say, yep, I make enough money for this loan, and they accept that. They accept that because you're putting such a large down payment on the house that, for lack of a better way to put it, they really don't care if you make your payment because they'll just take the house. So they're basically loaning on the value of the house. But it's a great product for people who, especially if you have good credit, you just aren't showing enough income to qualify. Now, on your tax returns, I don't want to get too in depth about how we look at them, but even if you have a good tax guy and you're like, I'm showing $20,000 in income last year, even though I own 15 properties. A lot of the stuff that you're writing off on your income taxes, or your tax guy is, a lot of that, from an underwriting standpoint, they'll add that back in and count it as income for you. So don't automatically assume just because you don't show a lot on your tax returns that underwriting is not going to look at it and say, hey, they really do show a lot of income. So the stated income loans, they do have a lot higher costs and a lot higher interest rates than conventional financing. So right now, if you did just to kind of give you an idea of the lay of the land on interest rates, on conventional financing right now, you're looking at probably around on an investment property, maybe around 4.5%. Interest rates have gone up over 1% since the beginning of the year. Still, relatively speaking, you'll hear a lot of loan guys say, historically speaking, rates are at really low, and that is true, but they have gone up quite a bit. So on a conventional loan, you're probably looking at around 4.5%. On these stated income loans, a lot of those depend on, with any interest rate, it depends on your credit score and how much money you're putting down. Will determine a lot on what the interest rate the lender will offer you. And that goes for conventional and these stated income loans. But even more so with the stated income loans, if you have a high credit score, you're going to get a lot lower rate. We do loans for people with a 580 credit score that are doing these stated income loans. They're paying really high interest rates, but the loan still made sense for them when they looked at the property they were buying, and they were still able to make it make sense. And then I put bullet point number 6, financing available for lower FICO scores. Generally, the lower your credit score and down payment, the higher the interest rate and cost. Sometimes you're required to have reserves. And I'm kind of getting into maybe a little bit too much detail because that kind of goes back to the first thing I said. Your finances are unique, and the best thing that you can do is consult with a loan officer, have them look at it and say, hey, I think this is probably going to be your best option. So I didn't want to, my purpose when I was thinking about what I was going to say was to give you some major thinking points about, financing and how I look at everything and how an underwriting looks at everything. I didn't want to get into the real down nitty gritty of everything because I don't want to bore everybody. And so these were kind of what I think are the most important points that I wanted to point out. So that's my presentation. Can I answer any questions?
Yes, I got one. So some folks, I'm a realtor, I'm Brian Scully. I know we never met face to face.
Oh, yeah.
Together. So they'll get a house, they buy it, they put a renter in it, they get their 1-year lease, and they can show that income to go buy the next one and that. So someone asked me a question the other day, what do you do with an Airbnb property that's kind of a new rage? Everyone's putting money on the Airbnbs. If you don't have a year lease contract or something to show that income, how would you show your cash flow on an Airbnb property without a typical lease?
Something that you haven't claimed yet on your income taxes?
No, just you're not going to have a lease agreement because so Airbnb being a
Oh, I
short-term rent, you're renting for
Short-term rent.
Yeah, for
1 week at a time.
a week or a day at a time.
Yeah, so if it's claimed on your taxes last year, they're just going to use it as one of the properties on your tax returns and look at it as part of the overall picture. Because it'll be factored into what income you claim. But if it's something that's not yet claimed, as long as you can prove the rents that you're receiving on it, and I've actually had this before, and you can show that it's leased on Airbnb, then they'll use those rents to offset the payment. So, which gets into maybe a little bit more detail, but generally speaking, 75% of whatever rent you're charging someone will be used to offset a mortgage payment. So if you have a $750 mortgage payment and you're charging them $1,000 a month rent, they'll take that $1,000 a month, times it by 75%, and they'll use $750 to offset your $750 mortgage payment. General rule of thumb for everybody.
What about DSCR loans? Like I've heard those used to do a lot for Airbnbs.
Did you say ESCR?
DSCR?
DSCR, I'm not familiar with them.
Okay, I think that is based on what they think the property will bring in. So what they don't ask for tax returns. They base it on the property basically on a DSCR loan.
Yeah, so that would be, in my mind, like a no income or stated income, or even a no income verification. They're just mainly, they're saying if you want to put 20-25% down, then as long as you have a fairly good credit score, then we'll loan based on this property.
Just to touch on that, what you're referring to is a debt service coverage ratio loan. It's an asset-based loan that's based on the asset and its income. Value of asset versus income coming in, and then you have a good credit score to get you that DSCR loan. Very similar to state, also known as bank statement loans as well.
Thanks, I learned something. Anyone else?
Do you have commercial guys in-house?
We do not do commercial financing. I don't have commercial guys in-house, no. We're strictly residential.
Fast residential.
What's that?
Fast residential.
Yeah, fast residential. Yeah, another shameless plug for my company. We are really, really quick. And I'll do a shameless plug for my company. And Ryan can attest. I've done, I think, 4 deals with him so far, and I think we were really fast on every single one of them. Most companies, and I'm sure you know because you probably dealt with them, they aren't as fast as we are. We really try to make things fast. We really try to make things easy. What I preach to the people that work for me is if everybody involved in the transaction isn't happy and pleasantly surprised at how fast we close at closing, then we did something wrong. So that's kind of what my company's all about. I'm really big on customer service and really big on making sure everyone involved in the transaction is happy.
Now, to be fast, what's your access to appraisers? Are you working within a house, or because that tends to be the biggest hang-up most time?
It is. I'm a mortgage broker, so we have difference between me and a bank. If people don't know, I have different lenders that I have relationships with. So depending on what my client's situation is, I'll say, oh well, it fits best at this lender. Because some lenders offer different programs than other ones. Appraisal wise, I use mainly the same 3 appraisal companies. If we need to have an appraisal done fast, it's only $150 extra, and you can rush an appraisal. We can usually get them back in 5 days. So sometimes I'll do that just because I want to try to dazzle people, and I'll just pay the $150 and get the appraisal back quickly. But generally speaking, we'll get them back within 10 days. Very rarely do we get them back after 10 days. And underwriting turn times at the lenders I use are super fast. So yeah, that's part of why we're quick. Any other questions? Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you.
Is there PMI when you put 15% down?
There is, yeah, there is PMI if you only put 15% down.
Thank you for coming, Jeff, and he'll be here after the meeting if anybody wants to talk to him and pick his brain a little bit more. Our next speaker is actually a vendor, and it's Matt Sykes from Complete Cleanouts. Matt, come on up here and introduce yourself and tell us about your services.
Hello all, my name's Matt. I own Complete Cleanouts for Mobile Services. Not much of a speaker, just kind of figured I'd come up and get a chance to hear me now. Figured I'd come at least give the chance to maybe get you guys do some cleanouts, some demo work, that kind of stuff. We've been doing this stuff for about 6 years, clean outs, demo. We can even do some painting if need be. We even deal with a process server that does the evictions if need be. We work hand in hand with him, as well as a lot of investors such as Nadine Gabriel, Ronnie Medawar, a lot of big name guys. They even have a good lawyer if you guys need someone to help with evictions. So, I mean, I don't really have a lot to say. I just figured I'd come pass out some cards, let you guys know what we can do for you. That's about it for me, though.
How do you charge?
It's typically by the amount of stuff that's there. And then what the stuff is actually too. I mean, because you can go from anything from hazardous stuff to, I mean, just your typical clothing, you know what I mean? So it really just depends on what it is.
But are you thinking about $20 an hour, $50 an hour, $100 an hour?
No, it's more like by the cubic yard. It's about $35 a cubic yard is the going rate for your typical stuff.
Dumpsters or?
We can get dumpsters that are big enough. Typically, I use my trailers. I own about 15 trailers, and we haul them off same day. So you got dumpsters sitting there for weeks on end. We're in and out.
Do you clean up property?
Yes, we can do the overgrowth around the house, the small tree trimming, as long as it ain't big and we gotta get in a lift or something. We can cut down small trees. I got a lot of pictures you can see. If you guys don't want to check me out on Facebook, Complete Clean Outs Removal Services. There's a lot of pictures there that can kind of verify our work and a lot of customer reviews as well. Awesome. Thank you.
So do you charge by man hour too on tops of the dumpsters?
Nope. Nope, it's 35 per cubic yard and that covers me and my crew.
Really?
Yep. Yes, sir.
So 30 cubic yards is the
Damn.
10,
Around $1,000. Yep. Typically, we try to haul it because dumpsters get a little pricey, and most customers don't want the dumpster sitting there.
but a 30 cubic yard dumpster, if it was full, would run about $1,000.
Yes, sir. Yep.
That's you filming.
Yes. Correct. Yep. Yeah, we got companies we rent dumpsters from, and then we just fill them. Yes.
I don't know if you know me, I'm Jeremy Wheeler, I run the Genesee County investment group on Facebook.
Nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I looked that up, the GLA kind of.
You did, yeah.
Problem to get here.
Yep.
Now, I cannot testify to any of this work for me, but many investors within the group utilize Matt and his company.
Yes.
A name a lot of you may recognize, Mark Ushak.
Mark Ushak,
Prior
yes.
board member here. Mark solely uses him for his services.
Yep.
Anyways, Matt posts quite regularly his before and after photos of the job he's doing.
Yes, sir.
So you get on his page or in our investment group, you'll see that he tackles some pretty big projects and leaves them looking the way they computer stuff.
Absolutely.
Clean out, pull down the jobs.
Yep.
And many members in the group besides Mark give great testimony to his services, his speed, his cost. So he's definitely down the call.
I appreciate that, sir. Anything else? All right, that's it for me, guys. Thanks for your time.
Hey, Matt, I need Hey, Jeff.
So our last thing tonight is 50-50. We've actually got two drawings. So the first one's 50-50, and the second one is a gift card for Redwood, sponsored by Terry from Serpro, like it never even happened. And so for all your restoration needs. So Jeff, can you come up here and draw for us? And if Jeff wins, I'll kick him. So the last four digits are 5426, 5426, and the pot tonight's $80. Do we have a winner? We got one. All right. $80. Thank you. All right. So the next one is a gift card from Terry for Redwood. He didn't come here for date night. It was crazy last night. From Terry from Surf Pro. And I'll draw this one. And the last four digits of this one are 5455. 5455.
That's me.
All right. Well, he drove all the the way up here from down south where all those fancy people live. And he went home with a gift card, so now we're gonna get him up here spending some money in Genesee County. Does anybody have any questions or any real estate related questions that you think myself or any of our other board members could answer just while we're here and have a little extra time? All you gotta do is like raise your hand, speak up, yell.
I got one. So, what's the first thing you would tell a first-time landlord?
I got a quick question. On most, if you're buying a house, you have to take earnest on everything, don't you? Is it earnest money? I'm trying to explain it. My son-in-law, his realtor didn't take earnest money. He just found this out and they backed out on the closing at the last because they're people. Why didn't they take earnest money? What would be the reason?
So like when I list property, because I'm a realtor, my rule of thumb that I would put on a listing agreement and so different MLS boards do have different rules. So like eCar used to have a line where you could put minimum earnest money deposit. RealComp doesn't have that section, so you actually have to put it in other terms and conditions and agent notes of the minimum deposit that you want. My rule of thumb for a deposit is around 1% of the price as a minimum. If it's cash, then you want it to be bigger. But if there's realtors involved, you never want the deposit to be bigger than what the buyer's agent commission is going to be, because then you run into this accounting nightmare of you collected $10,000 and then the deposit, your commission was $6,000, and then now you got to bring a check as the realtor to closing. It just becomes an accounting nightmare. Now, what to your thing is, so they never collected earnest money.
He found this out after they backed out, everybody backed out.
Yes. So the problem is pre-electronic signing, where everything, like almost everything now is signed electronically except the deed.
Right.
You would actually meet with these people and you would sign the document, you collect the deposit, you'd send, when you submit the copy of the purchase agreement, you would have the check. Now we run into these problems where everything runs fast and loose, and you have an agent who's busy or new or unexperienced, and they're not verifying after the purchase agreement's accepted that they actually got the deposit and requesting that copy, because most realtors are writing like deposit collected within 24 hours worth of acceptance. But realistically, a lot of people will collect them at the home inspection, which could be 3 to 7 days after, and then, or they come to the home inspection and they forget to even get it from them then, so now you're in a situation where you're closing the deal and you're doing an addendum at closing, removing the security deposit. So it's really, I would say, it's on the buyer's agent and the seller's agent for not verifying that it was actually collected, yes.
At some of the RD loans, the agents, the mortgage brokers are telling the people, you don't have to put a deposit down for a real development loan. That just happened to me, and I said to the broker, no, I'm getting at least $500.
Yeah.
And Ed, you need that consideration to have a legal
Valid
contract.
Yeah.
And so without a consideration, you don't have a contract, and they can walk away from your deal
Yep.
with no penalty.
So, my next one is, on the earnest money, I just had a deal go bad. The money's still sitting wherever you guys put it, and without her coming in and signing it, it can't be released to either
Yeah, it's
person.
very nice.
And we can't get a hold of the lady. My real estate's been over a year now.
It's been over, so
It's bullshit.
I was representing a seller on a deal. In like 1 week before closing, the buyer backed out.
That's mine.
And so I was representing the seller, so we're at Tremaine. Remax was representing the buyer. Remax actually sent the deposit back to the buyer, penned it with, and got a document signed that if there's ever suit brought, that we'll put the money back into escrow. So I would call whatever holding company that's what they did.
Yeah.
And the thing is, my seller for $1,500, it wasn't worth filing. So I would ask them like, hey, can you release this money to me? She wronged me. It's very clear that she wronged me. And if she ever brings suit to get her deposit back, I'll quickly bring the money back up here so that way it can be decided on by a judge. But the chances are it'll probably never happen. And if it's been a year, over a certain period of time, you're supposed to send that money to the state.
Yeah. it's
There.
almost going on a year, and it's like she backed up, like you said, almost 3 days before they have everything done.
Yeah.
Last time I looked at the e-car purchase agreement, it was retained by the broker. That was the debt.
Yep.
What happened to the?
I think that's actually in the listing agreement. The e-card listing agreement says that the broker keeps it for their work. But I would never, like, if my salary gets screwed, I never keep the deposit.
But I'm not sure it's the buyer or the seller's money until they go to court for it. Period.
Yeah, that's actually true. Because the listing agreement, when they listed it, so like on RealCount now, we still use eCard PA. The listing agreement that you signed when you listed that, if the buyer defaults, the buyer's broker keeps the deposit.
As a retained deposit, retained earnings.
The buyer's broker or the seller's?
Seller's broker, sorry. Seller's broker keeps it. So it might not be yours anyways. It might be the broker you sign with.
But they can't even get a hold of her to come in and sign the lease with anybody, so it's a joke.
Yeah.
That would go to the state.
Yep, that, and she can claim it because it's still in her name somehow, because state just don't get.
Do you have Legal Shield?
Prepaid legal shield?
No, I don't, no.
It's like 40
But
bucks
if
a
you
month.
have legal free, because I take care of it, but yeah, no.
All right, so if anybody in here isn't familiar with what Legal Shield is, Legal Shield's like prepaid legal. And so anytime you want them to send a letter in regards to a problem, they do so for free. And you pay like $40 a month. So like today I just called them like, hey, I have a tenant, which it's more like 30 tenants, but I didn't tell them that. I'm like, I have all these tenants that we've already sent to collections at this point, and then the collections company turned out to be crooks too. So so here we are, and so now I have Legal Shield, and I do have to open a separate case for every single one. But now I got Legal Shield sending letters out on Powers Chapman letterhead demanding for payment. And then if they actually reach out to me, I'll set up on any sort of payment plan in the world. I'll take $15 a month on auto pay. You know.
Legal Shield is, I put it down as idiot insurance.
Yeah, it's idiot insurance.
Idiot insurance. It's $400 a year roughly.
And it's worked out pretty good for me.
And I go like 6 months without having to talk to them.
Because
I go 12 times in a week.
Yeah, I got a lawsuit in the mail one time that, and I actually got an email because people saying they were suing me for plagiarism of a photo that we used on my website from a free photo website because we didn't use the full site link for citing where the photo came from. And it was a full scam that these people from France had on these photos, and so I read into it, and so I just sent the thing to Legal Shield. Legal Shield sent a couple letters and it went away. But you had a question?
I entertained a contract, 15 grand. I took a $1,000 deposit. I'm trying to represent the seller. The buyer was there. We wrote up the paperwork. I put in there just for a date because you have to have a date so that it has to be closed on or before March 15th. We worked everything together. We got everything going. It was all set. Last Friday, I had a closing. The buyer didn't show up. It was a cash deal. So now I'm sitting on this $1,000, and we got this drop off on March 15th. How long before I can entertain another offer? And I'm not quite sure what I do with the $1,000. I got to read through it, because I think it goes to the realtor for the commission.
Yeah.
I mean, would you?
Have they communicated with you why they didn't show up?
No, I have no idea. I texted.
But they said they were going to show up.
I talked to them like on Tuesday. I told them I'm gonna email you the closing docs on Wednesday. You're gonna need checks by Friday. And so Wednesday.
And they said okay?
They said okay on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday I emailed this stuff. I tried to call. I tried to call Thursday.
The buyer wasn't Mo Pete, was it?
No.
He did that to my buddy on a $300,000 deal. Said he was at the bank. Oh, I'm just getting my cashier's check at the bank. Never showed up.
And then, I called him 10 minutes before the closing. Are you still coming? We want to make sure you're going to be here. And then I texted him after that. And later that night, I texted him, hey, are you okay? We got to take care of this. I need to give you your $1,000 back. I was trying to entice him to call me, but he didn't text me or call me or anything. What would you do?
Well, in the days of COVID,
I'm getting tired of hearing that.
me too. I would give them at least another week before I sold it again. And if you didn't hear from them in a week, then I'd probably just try and sell the thing again.
Even though it has,
Send them a letter.
this contract's null and void after March 15th.
Yeah, I think he brought up a good thing. Send him do you have his house address, copy of his driver's license? Yeah. I would just send him a letter and say, hey, we haven't heard from you, didn't show up for this closing. You know, if we don't hear from you by this day, a week from today or whatever, we're going to resell the house. And if he doesn't respond, then I'd just resell it. And I'd keep the deposit. He didn't show up at closing.
That's it.
Send
Yeah.
that first class for tracking.
Sign.
Yeah, not certified.
Oh, that's right. They gotta sign it, they won't work.
Just first class.
First class.
Yeah, they won't go to the bank or the post office to get it.
No, but with tracking, like he said, the proof that you mailed it to that address.
And that,
Yes.
Are you talking about a proof of mailing?
Yep.
Yeah, but not certified now.
They're not certified.
First class with tracking.
Because the time doesn't start until he signs it, you may never sign it.
But you know,
100%.
Ed, you know that it's almost worth your time to go out there with some type of hold harmless letter to have them sign it. Because real estate has a long history of two people showing up at a closing, both with a legitimate purchase agreement, wanting to buy the same house. You have to be very, very careful, because your agreement is in writing. They've got a deposit on the property. And you just can't sell it a second time, even though Ed might agree with you, and I might agree with you, a judge may not agree with you. And so that's the perfect place to walk and send somebody out there with a hold harmless to get them to sign it, even though you have to wave the deposit back in their face to get it. You may find out that they do have an intention to close, but not till next month. I mean, you just never can tell what's in a buyer's mind.
In the contract, it says it shall be.
I don't care what it says. Whenever you have to take these things to court, it becomes one man's decision. That's usually the judge. And you can't always bet that he's going to look at it the way you're looking at it. A hold harmless is a way out of the situation. It's not hard to go out there and get him to sign it. If he won't sign it, tells you he wants to close on it. Period. You sign a purchase agreement.
A lot of legwork.
Or a mutual release.
There is no easy way out of your problem.
Yeah, I know. But it says that, it's only good till March 15th. So I was
Yeah, after that, you're definitely good.
Then I'd wait till March 16th and sell it.
Yeah. If you want to sell it before then, you might have to be gangster.
Thanks.
Is anybody here involved with Flint water crisis and filling out your claims reports?
Claims,
Filling out your claims.
that would have to be a motion.
Okay, I was just wondering, what is the formula you're going to use to claim your loss on your properties? Okay, so to the membership, how do I claim loss on properties? These properties we're renting, I rent week to week, $100 a week. I couldn't rent them because of the water, and so they sat empty. Then I sold them the low SEC value because I was trying to get rid of them. I couldn't keep it up, pay the taxes, pay the insurance, and no income. So properties that I were making $5,000 a month or $5,000 a year on, I was making nothing on. So what do I claim lost? What do you do?
Well, you didn't pay any taxes on the income you didn't get.
No, I
What's
paid
that?
property taxes and I kept up my insurance.
I unfortunately am going to say that you probably have no case because the municipalities don't seem to care and gave us no relief during COVID to not pay our property taxes, even though they made it abundantly clear that the tenants did not have to pay their rent. They still gave us the big old F you pay me. So I really think that you're stuck holding the bag and you fought the government and they won.
I'd give an effort. I'd document all your losses and write it up and throw some wild ass number out there and,
This is a crazy idea. Maybe you could just 1099 the city of Flint.
Send a
right?
Call them,
Yeah.
send them the bill.
Anything else? Well, thank you guys for all coming tonight, and look forward to seeing you guys here in the next few minutes as we mingle.
Hey, I got a couple questions. No. Is there anybody out there that does cheap rental insurance on properties around here for Flint?
Brian, have you talked to Brian?
I just started paying for insurance, I've never